Alright, good afternoon, Semper Fortis Jiu Jitsu students. So, this week's question of the week was a business question on how to more effectively, efficiently run a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu school, a martial arts school, and how to improve student retention. So, it was one of our questions, and I thought it was a great question, so I made it this week's question of the week. So, how to improve retention is one, give your customers great value. That's critical. Is give them the most bang for their buck. There's an old saying, under promise and over deliver. So that's better than the alternative of over promising and under delivering. So give your students great value. Also create a positive atmosphere. And what I mean by that is you're not allowing bullying on the mats. You're not allowing a hostile culture to exist on the mats. And hold different social gatherings to develop camaraderie. You know, that might be UFC parties, picnics, other get-togethers, you know, whether it's like, a lot of times we do get-togethers for Thanksgiving, Christmas dinner, just have big team parties. And these things help develop camaraderie amongst your students and make people not want to leave. Be fair with promotions and how you treat people. You know, like I joke with my students, although I'm serious about it, is like I love my 31-year-old son, and he's been training with me on and off since 2006. Whew. So almost 19 years. Yet he's a blue belt. Because, you know, he hasn't consistently trained. He didn't train every day for the past 19 years. He just didn't really stick with it. Took some breaks. You know, he wrestled in high school, so he was more focused on that. And so, like, my son's a blue belt. And, you know, I point out to my students, I'm not promoting people based on how much I like you. You know, it's like that I don't have a student that I like more than my son, yet he's still a blue belt because his skills aren't there yet. If the students at your school see you being unfair and blatant favoritism, it's going to hurt your retention. When I talk about creating a positive atmosphere, I did another video a few weeks ago on why I don't have mat enforcers, because when I say create a positive atmosphere, if somebody's being a bully on the mats or using, you know, like some unethical moves, I don't sick somebody on them, you know, to beat them up to teach them a lesson. It's like, no, I pull them aside and I talk to them, because my goal is to create a positive atmosphere for all the students, not like, hey, you better be in line, or, you know, the professor, you know, one of his minions are going to come trample you. It's like, yeah, that's not the way I believe in teaching people. So I hold conversations, and if somebody can't get it, and, you know, I've had people who are like, no, like this is the way I want to do jiu-jitsu, and I was like, dude, I respect that. And you know, there's 25, give or take, jiu-jitsu schools in town. You just need to go to one of them to continue your training, because you're not going to be able to train here like that. And that's part of the way that I create that positive atmosphere. I talked about like under promising and over delivering. Some of the things that I do that under promise, over deliver is I do things like one of our black belts, and there was a few of the students that it was more convenient for them to have a 5:30 a.m. class, and all I offered was Monday through, you know, Friday a 7 p.m. class, and then Monday through Saturday an 11:30 a.m. afternoon class. But after doing 33 years in the Navy, I'm not getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Like that just don't happen no more. So one of the black belts was interested in holding that class, and so he does. Him and a group of students that come in at 5:30 Monday through Friday, and they train. I think, you know, my wife comes in sometimes and helps with the class. I think she comes in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I don't advertise that class to prospective students, because if for some reason that black belt Dave decides, hey, I don't want to do this no more, I'm not teaching it. But when I talk about under promise, over deliver, like that's not on my website, that's not on my schedule anywhere that we offer a 5:30 a.m. class. That's a benefit of membership, and I don't charge people extra for that, because like I'm not teaching it. Just one of my black belts wanted to teach it, so it's like, okay, you can do it, and all of our members can participate in it, but I don't use it as a tool to attract new members. And it's one of those things that's like under promised, over delivered. Also, when after the lockdowns ended, we ended up getting this wonderful family, the right family, to come teach judo for us, because their previous school had that they was training at went out of business. So our judo program really took off, because we had a judo program before they got here, but not at their level. And so we went through and we got like springs for underneath our mats, little Fuji springs. Probably got like 1,000 of them underneath these mats. And so when you get thrown, it's much more pleasant than if you're just being thrown on a 2-inch mat with nothing but concrete underneath it. We didn't raise prices to compensate for that expense to do it. And I'm not telling people to lose money. I'm just saying every time you give something, it doesn't need to necessarily come with a price increase. And although the 4 black belts from the Wright family, who are amazing judokas, we don't charge extra for a person to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in judo. So there's not extra for the judo program. It's like, no, if you're a student here at Semper Fortis, you can train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you can train judo at no extra cost. So that goes back to under promise, over deliver. I'm giving a benefit of membership that doesn't come with a price tag. And so I think, in my philosophy, is that will help with your student retention. Everything doesn't have to come with a price tag. I'm not saying lose money. I'm just saying that keep in mind that everything doesn't come with a price tag. Like, you don't have to raise costs every time you're giving a new feature. Like, I can make even more money. Sometimes I give new features, no extra cost. So, and then also be kind and level-headed. And what I mean by that is like while I was in the military, I took a traumatic brain injury. I get headaches sometimes. And when I have these headaches, I have a short temper. Like, you could automatically, if you've been in the military, it's like you get the knife hand. Not a karate chop, knife hand when we're talking to you. If you weren't in the military, you'd probably go over your head. But if you was in the military, somebody spoke to you with a knife hand before, and it's usually a very unpleasant conversation. So when I get my headaches, I realize, you know what? It's probably not a good idea for me to go teach class today. And fortunately, my wife is also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and she's a judo black belt. And, she just comes in and covers that class. Or I'll call one of my other students and like, hey, can you cover me for this? Because in the military, if I lost my temper, it was okay. But in civilian world, running a school, running a business, I realized, man, if I lose my temper, it's going to cost the school. I'm going to lose students. And there's a guy in town, phenomenal jiu-jitsu, genuinely nice guy. But every once in a while, I know he loses his cool with his students. And then I'll see these students. They'll either be coming to my school or another school in town. And he's steadily losing students because he loses his temper. And you have to be aware of that. Be aware of your own personal flaws. So I realized, when I get a headache, that's not the time I should be coming in and dealing with the student, because that will usually be the time that somebody will be grating my nerves, without making much effort. And I might end up saying something that I would later regret and cause us to lose students. So I keep that in mind. Like, hey, there's some days I don't need to be teaching because I don't have the patience for it on that particular day. Yeah, sleep on it, come back, headache's gone. Say, okay, deal with them tomorrow. So if I didn't have anybody to cover me and had a really good headache, I'd probably just cancel class that day. Be like, well, I don't want to cancel it, but hey, don't want to come in there and lose my cool and then end up losing business. So keep that in mind. Just keep in mind, like your own limitations in how you treat people. Always be kind. Not that you're not firm and have a discipline, but be kind until it's time not to be kind. And then realize with all that, having a positive attitude, positive culture, group activities, creating this family type atmosphere, being fair, over delivering and under promising, and with all that and having a great value, you're still going to lose students. And how you react to that is going to affect, because sometimes the students you lose, they're going to have friends in here. So if like you're like, oh, that freaking Krianje, and I did another video why I don't call people Krianjes, or you just start bad mouthing them. I've seen people who are like, oh, don't associate with that person, they're not on our team no more. It's like, bro, you're taking this too far. Like, no matter how nice you are in life, you will still be the bad person in somebody's story. That's just how it works. And then no matter how hard you try, in some things you just aren't going to be able to meet that person's wants, what they want in life. Like for me, I try to be you could have a Kia, if we use cars as a comparison, you could have a Kia type school, with a Kia car, which is just inexpensive puzzle mats, sort of limited, inexpensive prices, but limited options, but it'll get you there in jiu-jitsu. I try to provide the Toyota type school where it's like, it'll get you there, it's got a lot of nice features at a reasonable price, but understand, some people want the Lamborghini school, which is like, maybe it's being taught by a world champion. Maybe like they got showers, maybe they got a sauna and a whirlpool and all these other things, which of course drive the cost way up. Like these features don't come for free. It may drive the cost way up, but they want that, and so nothing less than a Lamborghini or a Rolls Royce or a brand new Mercedes is going to meet their wants and I guess needs. So a Toyota is not going to be good enough. Kia is definitely not going to be good enough for them. Or Chevy Chevettes, or whatever the new inexpensive car is. It's not going to be good enough. And the mid-price car, which is where I try to go, hey, not going to be good enough. They want the Lamborghini. And so just understand that for some people, no matter how hard you try, you're not going to be able to retain them. That's not them. They want other things. And don't act like a spoiled child, when you don't get your way and you lose that student. Just be like, hey, they decide to go someplace else for whatever the reasons are. Sometimes they tell you, sometimes they don't. Be cool. No reason to have a tantrum. There's another guy in town, like he'll do a dang live video talking trash about students when they leave. Like, bro, stop with that madness. But hey, people do what they do. So just realize that, hey, maybe have a friend that you can bounce some of these ideas off. Like, hey, I'm getting ready to say this. What do you think? You're like, hey, bro, you ought not say that. Everybody needs that friend that will tell them the honest truth. Like, yeah, bro, you're acting a little off the grid. Like, you ought not do that. So try to have that friend. So those are some tips on how to improve student retention. But just realize, like I said, you're going to lose students. It's going to happen no matter what you're doing. Sometimes there's a school that's going to be less expensive, and that student needs that. Sometimes it's going to be a school that's going to be closer to them, and that student needs that. Sometimes it's going to be like, well, some friends or family members are training at another school, and that student wants that, Sometimes it's going to be like there's somebody in here at your school that they don't like, that they have grief with. And my business is not to know everybody's personal business. You know, like if they got personal gripes in life with each other, it's like, if it's not jujitsu, you know, like something that's happening on the mats, I can't control that. And I'm not trying to intervene in those disputes. So just realize you're going to lose some students. Don't overreact. All right. This video, like many of my business videos, went longer than I wanted, but it is what it is. So, got a question for next week? Feel free to fire below. Any insight you have, what you do for student retention, or as a customer, things that you look for that make you want to stay at a school, feel free to comment below, and we'll all learn and grow. Till next week. Ciao.